This is episode 346 of the Beyond the Food Show, and today is a special episode. I have a message for all the women in this world. Here is what I want every fat woman to know. And I'm calling out for all the self-identified women to listen to this podcast, that you identify as a fat woman or not. This may help you, or it may help another woman in your life. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Going to Beyond the Food Show, the only podcast that teaches you how to reshape your mind, not your body, to make your life better, bigger, and bolder. Your undieted life. I'm your host, Stephanie Dodier, reformed dieter, nutritionist, and coach. You ready? Let's do this. Welcome into this heart-to-heart that I want to have with all of you. And I've titled this conversation, Here's What I Want Every Fat Woman to Know. And as I was deciding the title of this broadcast, of this podcast here, I intentionally chose the word fat. And I recognize that for some of you, self-identifying as fat can be triggering. And I have a lot of love and compassion for that. And I want you to have a lot of compassion for yourself to self-identify as fat. And this broadcast is for any women that self-identify as fat. It doesn't have to do with the size of your pants, the way you relate to the BMI, the way that society tells you your size or your self-identification name. It's what you think of yourself. Even if you think of yourself as fat and you believe that it is such a terrible thing. So this broadcast is for the women who are beginning their journey related to their body. It's for the women who already are in the journey, and the women like me who fully embody the word fat. Here's what I want you to know, and this is from me. If you're coming across this broadcast here and you have no idea who I am, I'm Stephanie Dodier. I'm a clinical nutritionist, a certified intuitive eating counselor, a mindset coach, and I'm a reformed dieter of 25 years. My first diet was at the age of 12, and my last one was when I hit the 40 mark. I'm 47 years old. And I self-identify as fat. Society identify me as fat. I'm tall, I take a lot of space, and I own it today. But it's not always been this way. The last 6 years of my life has been where I have accepted the size of my body and myself. And I wanted to do this broadcast to help all the other women that are not where I am right now, that are still struggling, that are still challenged with the size of their body, the appearance of their body. And I also, before I get into what I want to tell you, I also recognize and I embody the privilege that I am as a white person, that it's easier for me to relate to my fatness and be confident in my fatness. I've got two identity that makes it harder, which is being a woman and being fat, but I've got also a lot of privilege on the other side. So I want everyone who's listening to this to sit into that. So here's what I want every fat woman to know. It is not fair. It is not fair that society isn't welcoming of you and your body. It is unfair that you can't sit in an airplane seat, or that the airplane seat is extremely tight and uncomfortable for you. It is unfair that the boot at the restaurant doesn't have enough space for you in your belly. It isn't fair that you can't shop for clothes anywhere. It isn't fair. It is unacceptable that people comment when you walk into a space, that people look at you, that people stare at you, that you feel uncomfortable taking space. It's unfair. It's unacceptable. So what? So what are you going to do about these facts? Are you going to let the fact that you can't buy clothes anywhere you want, anywhere that other women can buy clothes, stop you from buying clothes? Stop you from putting clothes on your body that you love, that makes you feel good about yourself? Are you going to stop going to restaurants because your belly rubs or you can't fit in the boot? You're going to sit at a table. Are you going to let other people opinion about your body stop you from going out in public, stop you from being who you are? That's why I say, so what? The only reason why we suffer emotionally from these circumstances, from, I'm going to name it, fat phobia, the only reason why we experience emotional suffering from fat phobia is because we decide to let it emotionally affect us. Now, this is going to be some hard truth for many of us. And that is the first step. You hearing these words is the first step towards you making a change in your life. Being told that you have no choice but to suffer from fat phobia, as far as I'm concerned, is bullshit. You have the ability, you have the possibility of not letting fat phobia create emotional suffering in you. The way to get there is taking responsibility for your own emotion. The only person, the only thing responsible for you suffering from fat phobia emotionally is your own thoughts about the circumstance. The example of that I'll use is the airplane seat. The reason why I'm using the airplane seat is that I'm a traveler. I could decide to suffer emotionally from the fact that my butt doesn't fit properly in an airplane seat. And every time I take a plane, I would spiral down in anxiety and depression. Or even worse, not travel because of the fear of my butt not fitting in an airplane seat. And I know there's many women who are in that place right now. They rather not travel than to change their thought about their butt not fitting in an airplane seat or being tight in it and uncomfortable. That's when fat phobia wins. Fat phobia effectively wins when it prevents you from showing up into the world. The way out of that is to take 100% responsibility of our own emotion. And I'm coaching you on a topic that I live and breathe every day and have been living since the age of 12 years old. I am not saying that from a place of being in a thin body, from a place of not understanding what is happening to you and what has happened to you. I am saying that for you to see the possibility that is available to you on the other side of you taking responsibility for how you are experiencing fat phobia. You have the power to decide how you're going to experience fat phobia or your fatness in a world of thin, or in diet culture, or in the world that favorizes thin people. No one else has the power but you to change how you are experiencing it. You can decide to suffer, Or you can decide to be neutral. And I want to make a quick teaching here about acceptance. I am in full acceptance of fat phobia. Fat phobia exists. It is present into the world. We live in a society that is made and favorized thin people. It's a fact. Do I think it's cool? No, I think it's highly unfair. I think it's unacceptable. That doesn't mean that it stops me from living my life or that it makes me feel anxious. It makes me feel doubtful about myself. It used to for 25 years. It doesn't anymore. Why? Because I decided that I had enough suffering in my life and I was going to do something about it. And I learned how to create neutrality around fat phobia. I learn how to manage my mind so that I stop suffering because I lived in a large body. That is available to you. There's a ton of resources, from free resources to mid-price point resources to high-ticket resources, available for you to learn how to decide how you're going to think, therefore feel and experience fat phobia. It's simple, but it's not easy. So let me walk you through very quickly how you can change your experience of fat phobia. Number one, it's simple, but it's not easy. I want you to keep that in mind. Okay? It's simple in the fact that it's 100% dependable on you. There is no need for supplements, for meal plan, for programs, for special tools. All you need is a pen and a paper. That's all you need. That's it. All you have to do is put on paper the thoughts you have about your experience of living in a fat body. First step is to put these thoughts on paper. It's unfair. It's hard. I wish I was in a smaller body. I wish I wasn't fat. I wish I was able to go on a diet and lose the weight for the rest of my life. All these thoughts you put on paper. These are the reason why the thoughts you're going to put on paper the very first time, these are the reason why you have anxiety, you have self-doubt, you have frustration, you have anger. Not because of what society does to you, but because of your viewpoint, of your perspective, your glasses you wear in regards to fat phobia. It's a process called self-coaching. It's a process called cognitive behavior therapy. It's from the field of research of neuroscience. Once you've identified the thoughts, you can then identify how these thoughts make you feel. And now here's a kicker. You ready for this? Once you've identified how these thoughts make you feel, you then have the choice to change your thoughts. Not by judging yourself, not by beating the shit out of yourself for having these thoughts, but by bringing compassion, bringing safety to the fact you're having these thoughts. It's totally normal that you're having these thoughts because you live in a fat-phobic society. It's a fact that this society is not built for you. That doesn't mean you have to suffer from it. It's how you think about it. That process, you can learn it for free. I have a podcast called Going Beyond the Food Show Podcast. And from episode 199 to episode 343, which is 144 half-an-hour episode, I take you through step by step how to do that. How to apply thought work to fatness, to food, to everything that's going on in your life. It's totally free. It's out there. If you want to fast track your process in learning how to create confidence in being fat in a world that isn't made for you, then you can come and work with me. There's a number of ways you can do that. It's paid. It's not free, it's paid, but there's two different levels of payment. There's a midpoint that's accessible to most women, and then there's a higher ticket if you want to work one-on-one with me. But it's accessible to everyone, no matter what your financial situation is. That's my point of the story today. I want you to know that you can live your fatness differently, and it doesn't require you to be rich, to have a lot of money. It only requires you to make the effort to learn how to change your thought. Is it fair that you have to learn and you have to invest resources in learning mindset coaching tools? Yes and no. No, it's no in the sense that people in thin body perhaps don't have to do this work. Or maybe they have to do it, but from another identity. Perhaps they're disabled and they have to learn to accept their disability in a world that isn't made for them. Perhaps they're black and they live in America and they have to learn to accept their color. Right? Each one of us has a different story, and we cannot make assumptions about other people. I'm talking to fat women here. Is it fair that you have to invest your resources? No, but let me just tell you this. At first, you will have to invest your time. You will have to invest your resources, your energy, and your money if you want to learn how to do this and to be surrounded with the possibility of what that can create in your life. But after, you're going to be freaking unstoppable. Learning to accept your fatness in a world that isn't made for you is only step one. And after that, you can go after a new job. You can learn to handle your boss differently. You can learn to create a new state of your partnership relation with your partner. You can learn to change the way that your relationship with your friend work. You can start setting boundaries with people like your mom, who's always commenting on your body. When you have the mindset tool, you can do that. You can buy clothes that fit and that you love and that makes it fun for you to show up into the world. You can do that when you learn how to choose your thoughts intentionally. You can learn to ask for what you want in bed. You can learn for the money you want to have in your job. You can learn to, if you have a business, to set your pricing that make you feel valuable into the world. That freedom and that confidence of asking for what you want, for going after what you want, is only possible when you learn to manage the most powerful organ in your body. The most powerful organ in your body is your brain. And going outside of the norm, you claiming your fullness, your freedom, your confidence in the world that isn't made for you, can only be achieved when you start with your thoughts. You cannot push your way through that. You cannot hustle your way through that. It'll work, but it'll work short term. The confidence you want to create will never come from external things. It'll never come from the brand of car you ride, the size of the house you have, the size of your body, the aspect of your skin color, or how many wrinkles you have. Confidence is never the outcome of anything external to you. Confidence is the outcome of you trusting yourself and having your own back. And that is achieved through you changing the way you think about your body. This is what I want every fat woman to know. It's optional for you to suffer because of the size of your body. Sometimes there's a comfort. Some people will call that victim mindset. I call it being safe in an unsafe environment. So if you're stuck there in that place where It feels more comfortable for you to be the victim of your body because of external fat phobia and how terrible the world is, and you rather live in that space because that's the only thing that feels safe for you. That's okay. The first step is to know that there's a possibility out there of a different experience of fat phobia. That's all. Just knowing that there's a different step, different opportunity is the first step. And then create safety for where you are. But if you're somewhere else on the pendulum or on the spectrum and you're like, I know it's possible, I just don't know how to do it, go back and rewind that broadcast about halfway through. I gave you free resources, I gave you midpoint resources, and I give you high-end resources. There is another reality you can create, and it all has to do with your thoughts and your brain. Has nothing to do with the size of your pants. Externalized fat phobia, weight stigma exists. It's a fact. How you experience it is entirely up to you. In my experience of working with women for the last 6.5 years, I can tell you that there's much more suffering caused by internalized fat phobia than externalized fat phobia. We are suffering more from the internal narrative we have with ourselves than what happened when we step out into the world. You know why? Not because it's acceptable how society treats fat women, but you spend 24/7 with your own mind. And when you don't know how to control the narrative in your brain, then you shame yourself 24/7. Then you criticize your body and yourself 24/7. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You don't need to step outside the house to be suffering from fat phobia. You are your own oppressor. If you want to change your experience of your body, the starting point is not to change the world outside of you. It's to change how you experience it first. When you are in a place of safety with your own body and externalized fat phobia, build neutrality around that, and then you can go out into the world from a place of neutrality and help dismantle externalized fat phobia. Unfortunately, when we think of externalized fat phobia, we think this has to stop first in order for us to not suffer from fat phobia. That's one way of looking at it. It's available to you. I'm just saying that we are, unfortunately, decades away from no more weight stigma in our society for dismantling fat phobia. We're decades away from that. So how are you, as a woman, going to live your life from today until society has abolished fat phobia? Are you going to suffer for decades to come? Are you going to live a small life for decades to come? Because fat phobia still exists externally. Or are you going to say, F this shit, I have the power to experience and to create my own emotional reality. It's available to me to create freedom in my body right now, in my fat body. It's available to me to feel confident in my now body. Let's do this. Let's change the way I'm going to experience my body, therefore how I'm going to experience my life right away. I don't have to wait for the world to change. I have the power to change my internal world. That's what I want you to know. I want you to know that it's possible. Depending on which stage you are, that is the first time you hear a fat woman claiming that it's possible for you as another fat woman to be free, to be confident, to live your best life. Welcome to the world of possibility. If you are further along in the journey, you've heard me talk before, you've seen other women living a full life in fat body, and you just don't know how to do it for yourself, I have plenty of resources for you. Come to my world. And if you are already there, and you are a living, breathing example of what is possible as a woman in a fat body to live a full, confident, bold life, DM me. Let me know who you are, and let's influence the rest of the world together. If you're listening to this, I'm going to put that on all my platform in days and weeks to come. Please reach out to me. You can send me an email at info@stephaniedodze.com or message us on the platform where this is broadcasted. I love you, and I can't wait to meet you out into the world, you and I, living a full life. Bye. If you are loving what you're learning on the podcast, you have to come and check out Undiet Your Life. This is where we get to hang out together, where you get the individual help applying the concept thought on the podcast while learning new coaching tools that will make your life even more amazing. It's also where you get to apply the learning to think better, eat better, and feel better, and create your undieted life, your better, bigger, and bolder life. Go to stephaniedodze.com/join. I'd love to have you join us inside of Undiet Your Life, and I'll see you on the other side.